Right, hello everybody, welcome to the Clery Football Channel, and maybe one of the simplest videos I will ever do, because Arsenal, right, they were having a wobble, weren't they? Caused in part by moments like this, and instead, what they've now done is gone and demolished Tottenham with moments like this. And it's maybe one of the best examples I have ever seen of a big team identifying a big problem with a fairly obvious solution and just going and doing it really effectively. So this is that. Now before we start, two things very quickly. First off, thanks to our data friends at FOTMob, whose stats and info and graphs you will be seeing throughout this video. So you should download the app because it's got all of that good stuff and heat maps now, as well as like fixtures, results, all the stuff you want from a football app on your phone. And secondly, before anybody says, what is that on your elbow? These are the little kisses you get from a 4G pitch when you're making worldy saves all weekend. Like the one you're seeing on your screen now. So I don't want anyone saying in the comments, oh my God, has he lent in something? No, that's what work looks like. All right, so very important context to Arsenal smashing Tottenham, right, is that the Wolves game was indeed a disaster. I mean, there's no getting away from it. They were bottom of the league and they chucked away a 2-goal lead with a calamity last-second equaliser. That is what the wheels falling off tends to look like. And while everyone understandably wanted to focus on this exact moment and whose fault it was, I thought the more pressing issue was actually this. David Raya's unsuccessful passes after the first Wolves goal. Now, this is not to say that Arsenal don't win that game because of David Raya, although, yep, tens of thousands of people did quite literally say that, but it's more what this here, have another look, represents. Because after being comfortable in that first half, if maybe a little wasteful with their chances, Wolves go and get a goal back without necessarily creating a goal back, right? And the reason that's so important is because it's exactly the same as what happens with Kolo Muani in the Spurs game. This moment here, just like this moment here, is bad, but it's not representative of the momentum of the match changing. Like at Molineux, this happens in the 63rd minute, and it was the first sight of goal Wolves had for over 10 minutes. Like, they were not making chances. This is not a well-crafted goal. It's just a blasty that ends up going in. And from this point in the game, Arsenal's possession drops from nearly 70% to pretty much 50-50. Shots on goal was only 3 each from here. They went to almost total statistical parity with a team who may end up being regarded as statistically the worst in the history of the league. And the reason for that you can see right here. Like, they obviously get a fright when that goal goes in. They stop taking risks. Instead of playing out neatly from the back to work it through the opposition, they just start humping the thing long in a bit of a panic. And there were so many points after that goal where they were going long despite Wolves having no pressure on the ball whatsoever. Like, there's no reason at all for Raya to be sending this up the pitch when these are his available options and the opposition are this deep. Because when he does, they just lose it. Wolves come straight back at them and the pressure stays on. Like, just forget tactics for a second. This is entirely a mentality thing. And if you are of an Arsenal persuasion, it looked like a very, very worrying one. And then at this exact moment in the Tottenham game, it looked like they were in danger of having the exact same thing happen again. Now, these were the teams for this game, and just like in the Wolves match, Arsenal were really good from that first whistle. They kept the ball, they kept the pressure on, they pinned Tottenham's back three into a back five, they probed them, they moved them around, they got the breakthrough, but then they go and make the mistake. But again, just like the Wolves game, this was not Tottenham making chances. This isn't a well-crafted move. It's a total gift. And from there, going in at half-time, they must again have felt the temptation to stop taking as many risks, to not get caught out like that, to just go long, to be a little bit safer. But this time, Arsenal didn't do that. This time, Arsenal remained Arsenal. Now, this being Igor Tudor's first game in the dugout for Tottenham, it was going to be pretty tricky for Arteta to figure out what to do, but as the game wore on, you saw that he got it absolutely bang on. He did, in fact, go for this back three that he is famed for, but more importantly, he went for the really aggressive implementation of it that a lot of people thought he might. And that meant that the game plan was twofold, right? And fold number one was using Saka and Trossard to pin the two wing-backs, Jed Spence and Archie Gray, into the defence so they could not support either the midfield or the forwards. Now, a very exciting day for me, obviously, because FOTMob have just added heat maps to the app along with everything else. So we've taken both Spence's and Gray's here and also added their touch map from Opta as well. And in the first half, you can see that while Spence does get a little bit further up the pitch and helps a little bit, Archie Gray does not even cross the halfway line. So Tottenham could not get out really of being a back five. Now, if you watched it, you'll remember that Saka was actually in some central spaces as well. He basically floated around, getting picked up by all three of these players. His movement was a nightmare for Tottenham to mark. But the point is, Arsenal forced them into this shape, a 5-3-2, rather than a 3-5-2, which is obviously great for stopping your opponent doing anything in possession, but does make them a lot harder to break down. Now, of course, Arsenal did break them down several times, and we'll get to how they did that in a bit. But first, I want to show you this. Now, because you've got the opposition pinned into shapes like this, right, and the fact that Sarr, Basuma and Gallagher are not massively press resistant, Tottenham could not get out. Every time they had the ball in their own half, this man-to-man press leapt all over them. It was forcing mistakes, it was forcing loose passes, it was winning the ball directly. And this is the fabled danger zone losses graph from the wonderful Mark Stats and his robot companion, Mark Stats Bot, which if you're not following, you're a fool. Now this includes, I'll just get rid of all of these so you can actually see it a bit better, right? This includes all the high turnovers of the ball, of Arsenal actually going and winning it back, which was 17, which is already absolutely loads, but also all the stray passes, all the bad touches, all the times Tottenham give it away without Arsenal actually winning it, and there are 51 of them. Now, for a bit of context, right, I'd look at stuff like this all the time, and I would estimate that a normal amount for a team that lose the game is like 20 to 25, right? Arsenal had 15, for example, and if you watch the 2 o'clock kickoff, which was Forest versus Liverpool, Forest were all over them. They were taking the ball off them left, right and centre. They had like 28. But Tottenham, at home, in this match, they have 51, right? Which is a statistical and graphical way of saying that Arsenal put their foot on their throat and did not take it off. And if you watch it back, goals 2 and 3 both come from this. Like the Gyökeres one, Tottenham have been pushed back to the point where as this cross comes in, there's like 8 of them in-ish their own box. And that means that when they win it, when they scrap it back, there is no wide option to take the pressure off and no central pass to hold it up and get them out. Literally the only option he has there is just to hoof it clear and lose the ball. Now Arsenal work it back in from there really quickly, but I just want to take a slight tangent here for a second to highlight this pass from Jurrien Timber, because there's been a lot of debate, let's say, about the right way to use Victor Gyökeres. Some say Arsenal don't give him the service he needs, and others say that he doesn't do enough with the service he gets. But here, as Timber gets the ball, a risk-averse team who don't know how to use a centre-forward give this to Saka or back to Zubimendi, but instead, Timber hits it first time into this central area. Now, whether you think what happens next is really good play from Arsenal or really bad defending from Tottenham, then congratulations, you're correct, because it's both. But because Eze and Trossard have Paulinho and Dragazin occupied, it leaves this little pocket of space for Gyökeres. But because that pass has come in early and it's come in centrally, as low percentage as it may have looked, Tottenham cannot readjust quickly enough. And that means that Gyökeres can quickly use this space to basically kill the game. And I will, don't worry, mention Gyökeres again in a little bit, but just this pass from Timber here, right? This is the handbrake on stuff that Arsenal get accused of never doing. Slightly riskier passes, central options, men in the middle. This looks like another big problem that may be getting addressed. Anyway, though, the third goal, Tottenham tried to clear, but look how many central options Arsenal have shutting them down. Eze reacts quicker to the ball being loose. They turn it over and they go for the jugular. Tottenham again had absolutely no way of getting out of that situation. Yeah, it's a bad header from Dragusin. He doesn't react very well, but he is not flush with options in that moment. But the thing is, these little moments here, right, they're all part of Arsenal's off-the-ball setup, which is usually always pretty good, right? I thought what they did on the ball, in possession, was equally as smart/good. Because if you are pinning a team into a back five, then great, they obviously can't get out, but just look at this situation here. You are so less likely to be able to open them up. Early on, Arsenal have a passing move that horseshoes around the Spurs block for literally minutes. It would go to Saka and Timber on one side. They couldn't get any penetration, so it would go back into the middle, then out to Trossard and Nkapie. They had the same problem, and around it was going. And this, as I'm sure Arsenal fans are aware, has been an Achilles heel of theirs forever. But what they were so good at in this game was this moment here, right? Back six for Tottenham. Impossible to try and play through the middle. Nothing happening down the sides. But Timber, Saliba, Gabriel and Rice again work it round the outside, but they do it while dropping fully 40 or 50 yards. And on the face of it, yes, that looks pretty bad. It looks like you're going backwards. But by doing that deliberately, it changes absolutely everything. Because the one thing everyone knows about Igor Tudor was that he wants his teams to be really aggressive. So Tottenham kept pressing out when Arsenal dropped by chasing them back up the pitch. Which on the one hand is good. Yes, that's what you want to see your team doing. But the consequence is it starts to leave a bit of space between the lines and between your players. Sarr and Gallagher closed the ball, but Trossard has stayed high to pin Archie Gray, and Gyökeres has moved onto Paulinho to pin him as well. So these two cannot move at that moment, and that means Nkapie can now drop between the lines to give Rice a forward and central-ish passing option, which he does take, but again, that is still just bait. Because Gallagher is wrong side, Paulinho then has to jump out, which he will have been instructed to do, but just look how in that second, it gives Gyökeres loads of space again. He gets the ball down the side of the centre-back, who he has now isolated. He takes him on directly, he cuts inside, and very nearly scores the perfect goal to illustrate how you should try and open up a really low block. Do not horseshoe it. Do not think because you've got them penned in, you're doing a good job. Go back to the beginning and pull them out of that shape. And Arsenal did throughout this game. Keep doing exactly that. Going back to the beginning to get Tottenham out of that shape because they knew they would want to chase them up the pitch. And in fact, the first goal Arsenal score comes from doing this, but not by going all the way back to the goalkeeper, by doing it in a more subtle way. So as the ball's cleared here, Spurs are about as deep as you can get. And when it rolls out to Timber, he could try and put Saka in right away. But given the direction he is facing and the direction the ball would likely have to go, he cannot get turned there. The ball would just come straight back. But instead, and this is literally just a couple of seconds, right? Timber backs off and just draws Spence out towards him, which in turn gives Tottenham the ability to push out just a couple of yards. And then at the last second, he completely switches his stance, gives the ball to Saka, now in a position with the sort of space that he can get turned and face up the defender. And while there's a little bit of fortune about what happens next, yes, it is the sort of fortune that you wind up making yourself by making a decision like the one Timber makes rather than a bad one that he could have made before it. And as for the fourth goal, well, it's just all of the above, isn't it? Arsenal keep hounding Spurs in their own half, even in stoppage time, and they win it back. Gyökeres has isolated Archie Gray this time, who, God bless him, wound up playing like right-sided centre-back so they could bring Tell on. That was a little bit weird. And he attacks him directly and centrally and gets another goal. And yeah, like I said at the start, maybe the most obvious example I have seen in a long time of a big team going, oh, we have this glaring problem, and then setting up in the next match in a way that gets rid of that glaring problem. And yes, okay, it was Dr. Tottenham, but Arsenal have been getting accused recently of having a mentality issue, not taking risks in the final third, and then sitting off once they'd taken the lead. And they did the exact opposite of all three of those things here. And I think in the context of the title race, that's massive. That's bigger than the 3 points they got. And yes, okay, there is that weird fourth problem that's developing of them being a bit passive and a bit lightweight in crucial defensive moments, and in both the equaliser that did happen and the equaliser that somehow didn't. You could see that coming to the fore again, but three problems at a time, I guess. And that brings us very neatly to the end of the video. So if you have enjoyed this, then please don't forget to subscribe to us here at the Adam and Clery Football Channel. And if you're an Arsenal fan, has your head reattached itself? Do you think once again you are winning the league? Please let us know in the comments below. And if you've actually sat through and watched all of this as a Tottenham fan, why? Tell us why. You've done that to yourself. You could have done anything else. Thanks, as ever, to our data friends, FOTMob, whose link you can find in the description below. And if you're wondering what that other link is, that is my fundraising page for the Teenage Cancer Trust. I'm doing the London Landmarks half marathon in like 48 or 49 days, and we are trying to raise a bit of money for them in the so doing. If your teenage days were anything like mine, they were confusing and daunting enough as it is. So going through all that whilst having to navigate cancer, I cannot even begin to imagine what that is like. But the Teenage Cancer Trust makes such a huge difference, both in terms of quality of life and the end result to people who are going through that. And if we could hit the £1,000 target I've got, which is not a lot, but it will make a bit of a difference, I'd be a very happy man. But yes, until next time, that was the video. That was what Arsenal did to Tottenham again. And I've been Adam Clery forever. So I'll see you soon. Gosh, still not getting any good at these outros. I've been doing this for 3 years. Oh well, bye.